The asbestos issue is not a thing of the past. It continues to this day.
We want to end this man-made disaster.
So let's ban asbestos.
Hello. Thanks to the opportunity given by ADAO. We are here once more, sharing the last 30-year experience working as a labor inspector, as well as a social activist fighting for justice for the asbestos victims in my country. As some of you know, I retired last August from the Federal Labor Inspectorate. Lots of reasons made me take this decision, but especially the lack of support from my government to do my work in order to protect workers exposed to the killer fiber. I believe that I can contribute much more now with my experience empowering the social movement and the asbestos victims and families, which I helped to organize their associations in the last 20 years. Now I have no more mediocre, stupid chiefs halting me all the time, make me explain and report in details an inspection, accounting for the attorney's lawyers complaining of every action I was involved, every place I went or every word I said. Brazil continues in the world leadership of raw asbestos production as the third world major producer, led by the Eternit Group, which was before Swiss until the end of the 80s, French until the end of 90s, and now is a Brazilian corporation since 1998. Almost 50% of the Brazilian production is exported, especially to Asian countries and Latin America. Here, the last data of world production available showing us to whom Brazil is associated in the dirty, dangerous, toxic market. Its partners are the less democratic societies in the world, as Russia, China, Kazakhstan, where no social movements exist to counterpower the criminal industry. Brazil is reproducing the same model Canada has done more than 1 century, which we always criticized, exporting a well-known toxic to vulnerable societies without any information about the risk involved with its uses. The insolence of the Brazilian industry is total when they say that the Brazilian chrysotile is safe to be used in the country, confirmed by the lacking of mesothelioma and cancer diseases in the official statistics. A doctor in Mexico, Dr. Guadalupe, that is a physician, showed us that Mexico, which is a big importer of the Brazilian chrysotile, published an important scientific paper showing the increase of mesothelioma cases in her country, which we can conclude that the Brazilian asbestos is a nationalist and terrorist gun, only killing foreigners and enemies, but protecting the Brazilian lives. In this sense, Brazil and Canada had a deplorable role during the last round of negotiations last year in Geneva to include the chrysotile in the list of the Rotterdam Convention for PIC, prior informed consent. That is not a document that bans ban asbestos, but it's the right to know the risks associated with the product they are importing from the exporters. The countries that import asbestos have the right to know the risks associated. Brazil and Canada's delegations keep silence and abstained while the Russians and their supporters celebrated to block the chrysotile to be part of the list of toxins under control. The biggest importers in Asia are Thailand, in Asia, our big importers are Thailand, India, which was one of the countries that blocked the chrysotile to be listed. It's incredible that a country that doesn't produce asbestos, only imports, can say, we don't want to be informed on the risks related to the products we are buying. We don't want to protect our workers. It's really insane, totally no sense. Here we can see the BRICS as the biggest consumers of asbestos in the world. Brazil is the third. Again, my question repeated all these years as a mantra to my government, how you can be recognized as one of the biggest democracies in the world, associated with these countries in the world, commerce of toxics. No response, of course. No dangerous material or technology can survive in democratic societies which respect the right to know. Only dictatorial states, in these dictatorial states, these technologies can survive. Because there is no organized civil society to fight against this. We have in my countries 6 states that already ban asbestos in a total of 26 plus the federal district. I live in São Paulo state, the most industrialized and wealthy in the country. In 1991, our labor code or legislation instituted a bind data bank which the companies using asbestos every 2 years should inform us their production. Based on this data bank, we addressed our inspections. In my state, 180 industries informed us to use asbestos. Nowadays, 178 already replaced asbestos. Only 2 asbestos cement companies got judicial authorization to continue using asbestos since further decision to be taken by the Constitutional Supreme Court. They alleged to local courts that the decision to replace asbestos immediately could eliminate 500 workplaces. Indeed, these wrong decisions by the local judges and a not impossible retrocession coming from the Supreme Court, which is in charge to decide if the state laws are constitutional or not, can eliminate 17,000 jobs in São Paulo state, which the industries that already replaced asbestos will not survive to the competition with the asbestos products, especially those imported from China, as for example, pads, clutches, and brake linings for auto parts, as well products for insulation. All these years, we fought against a powerful industry lobby with their tentacles, using all the possible guns to halt our actions to ban asbestos in whole country. As for example, threats of all kinds, including death, anonymous phone calls, and scaring letters, as well as suing criminal charges to fire us as a civil servant. Lately, part of my work time I was used to defend me, to hire lawyers to defend me from the attacks of asbestos industry and answer their questions and attempts to slander, to discredit our work. I have been exposed by my government for 30 years without any protection. I always wore the same masks offered to the workers by the companies as the dischargeable 3M respirators. One day, one journalist asked me if I was afraid to be killed by the asbestos mafia. I said, no. The only fear I have in my life is to develop a malignant mesothelioma or to cause any damage to my daughter or beloved relatives indirectly exposed to asbestos. As I told before, the fiasco to include the chrysotile in the list of the toxics for pig in the frame of the Rotterdam Convention, which will promote a new meeting in 2 years and probably will not accomplish any consensus, can be challenged and overcome only by a world campaign of awareness with the consumers. This has to be our aim. Convince the consumers around the world that asbestos is harmful and to block its uses. We propose to start an international campaign through the internet to boycott asbestos products as lethal for the humankind health. Recently, we had an important reinforcement in our actions. The labor prosecutors started campaigns in my whole country to ban asbestos, as we can see in these posters. Despite the labor ministry always treated me as a disposable rubbish, the public ministry and the labor prosecutors have me in highest consideration and invite me to train the new prosecutors. I'm very proud and feeling useful. This magazine published very recently by the Labor Prosecutors Association has a clear position against asbestos and advocated the punishment of the criminal corporation, as the case here against the giant asbestos cement industry. They honored me with this article saying, a career, a cause. Thank you very much.